How are you doing today? My name is Roman D. Harris, and this is my interpersonal communication project for Liberty University, HESCR 508. So let's go ahead and get started. Interpersonal communication is the kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in a way that maximizes the presence of the personal, which emphasizes their unique, measurable, responsive, reflective, and addressability. The overall goal is to enhance my ability to listen while completely focusing on the person speaking, but also having the capabilities to communicate my feelings and thoughts to others in spite of it making me vulnerable. The reason why I chose this overarching goal is because I discovered that in my conversation with people, while they were talking, I was thinking of an answer. Instead of focusing on what their issue was and how to help them get through it, I had just already assumed I already knew what was going on. And so my desire is to help people at a greater level, so this is why I chose this overarching goal. Enlarging the conversation is the expanding approach to identify the needs in communication while focusing on the resources that could bring forth resolution to those needs. In order to help people, we have to understand what they need, and then not only the need, but then what are the resources that can help? What can we do to bring about a resolution to this situation? My background: I am an African American male. I was raised by a single parent, my mother. I am the oldest child of my mother and father, the oldest grandson and nephew, the only son of both mother, which has 2 daughters, and father, which has 5 daughters. Grew up very close to my grandmother, have been married 13 years to my beautiful wife, Ebony Harris, and am protector and provider. My behavior blend is what people expect of me as the SI, but the real me is the IS, mostly influence and steadiness. The positives are I'm optimistic, charming, outgoing, loyal, sympathetic, friendly, supportive, and patient. I am a people person, generally like people, want them to like me back. And a lot of times I'm hurt when they don't like me back. Trust people and enjoy bringing out their best. Enjoy meeting new people, working with others, and networking. Energized by working with people and will energize any group I work with. I can see the big picture and can be inspirational. I'm a good listener and team player. My goal is to help people, as I stated earlier. The negatives: dealing with sudden, unexpected change, being around competitive, aggressive, and confrontational people, lacking the spirit of supervision or peers, being pressured to make decisions or implement change, seeing other people get the credit for my hard work. Another negative that I would add is difficulty dealing with confrontation. One of the things I've always saw confrontation as a negative thing, but through this course I've understood that sometimes confrontation can be a good thing because you get to lay things out, you get to be open and honest, and therefore help bring about a resolution to the situation. Potential barriers: using words always and never when talking about my feelings. Trying to be Superman, solving other people's problems. This is one of my major things. I want to save everybody, but there are times that saving people can be a detriment. Not self-disclosing myself to others. Here's my question: how many times does Superman ask for help? Very few times. And also understanding that I will make mistakes. Perfection is the goal, but yet it's unrealistic to think you're never going to make a mistake. Overcoming barriers. Take words always and never completely out when expressing my feelings. Because one thing I've discovered and noticed is anytime I use always or never while expressing how something made me feel, the other person always has an excuse, because at the end of the day, no one ever, always, or never does anything all the time. You can't say you always does such and such. Well, the person say, well, back 5 years ago I didn't do it when I did such a thing. And they will be technically right, because no one always does something. The only one that can use to is God. Understanding self-disclosure helps build any relationship and should be given from both parties. One of the things that I had to really learn was that disclosing is not a bad thing, but it helps bring people closer together. If we're not going to be open and honest about who we really are and what we really feel, then how can a person get to know you to the extent they need to know you in order to build and connect with you? As a listener, I do not have the burden, but in order to help, I must help guide them to answer their own question. This is one of the big things that I really had to learn and discover about myself, because I constantly was wanting to give advice, but at the end of the day, people wasn't listening to it in many cases. And the thing I saw was that for their situation, they needed their own advice. Noise pollution, which is internal and external. Internal deals with what goes on the inside of you, like things that build childhood experiences, attitudes, values, perceptions, behaviors, feeling patterns, and daydreaming. External, clock watching, loud noises such as traffic machinery, talking low, personal appearance. All these things have to do with things that go on externally. Solutions to noise pollution: find a peaceful place away from the noise. Don't multitask. Give attention to one thing at a time. I'm reminded about the story of the hunter who chased 5 rabbits and caught none. And the reason he didn't catch one, because he didn't just focus on one, but he focused on a whole bunch and didn't catch anything. If you do not understand, always ask questions. This is one of the things that I have learned, and I have to do that. If I don't clearly understand, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Be patient, be positive, and most of all, focus on the other person's needs. My plan of action. First thing, listen to the point that I begin to see from the perspective of the talker. When I begin to understand how the talker feels and how from their perspective, then I can adequately help them get to where they need to go, because I understand where they are. I don't try to give my advice about someone else's situation. Here's the interesting thing. How can I give my advice about something that they're in? How can I say, I think you should do this, when I am not the one in the midst of the situation or the crisis? So I have to help them come to a conclusion that can benefit themselves and have their own goals. I will not ask why questions, but other questions that help guide them to find their answers. One of the things I discovered is why questions make people defensive and begin to shut down. And if I'm going to help someone, I can't have them shut down, because my overall plan of action is to help me not experience conversations such as these.
How are you doing? Trying to use a Jedi mind trick to control Stephen Hawking. Play. Ugh. He must be wearing a tinfoil hat or something.
I did a bad thing.
Does it affect me?
No.
Then suffer in silence. Play. Stephen Hawking.
Penny started taking a class. She wrote a paper. She didn't want me to read it. I went behind her back. I read it anyway.
Stephen Hawking hates me.
I don't know what to do. I mean, the paper's terrible. If I tell her, she'll know that I read it and get really mad.
I was beating him so bad he doesn't want to be friends anymore. Why does everyone love me except Stephen Hawking?
Is it possible we're having 2 different conversations?
How would I know? I'm not listening to you.